Hey, Marc Millan here. Thank you for letting me be a part of your day. Today I want to cover the law of growth. And if you know who John Maxwell is, years ago he wrote a book, a classic called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. So many good and timeless truths in that book. I'm going to leave the link to that book in the description because it's just noteworthy and something that not only you should have read or read, but something you should go back to over and over again. The law of growth is one of the laws he mentions there, and I think it's worth covering because we tend to forget this as leaders. And one of the goals or one of the things we want to accomplish as leaders is we need to be able to grow things. We need to grow teams. We need to grow a ministry. We need to grow our impact or influence. And so this law of growth is going to help you discern and know which path you're going down. So John makes it very, very clear, and a lot of my notes are from what John says. So I'm not claiming to be the author of these ideas, but I do want to be able to unpack them a little bit and present them to you so that you could chew on them and apply them in your leadership. So let's jump in. This is what John says. To have growth, you have to have followers, but to multiply growth, you have to have leaders. Let me say it again so you can start to distinguish the difference. To have growth, in other words, to grow something, to grow a team, an organization, a ministry, influence, impact, to have growth, you have to have followers. And we would all agree with that, right? If you were trying to do something and it was just you doing it, you're not influencing and you're not having an impact, right? One could say that you're not really a leader if no one's really following. So to have growth, you have to have followers. But to multiply growth, you have to have leaders. So this is the difference between having followers and having leaders. There's a difference between how the math works out. When you're a leader who's trying to gain followers, you're more focused on addition, adding to it. When you're a leader who's trying to multiply growth, you are thinking about multiplication. Addition versus multiplication. A follower's math focuses on addition, adding more people. That's a follower's mentality. A leader's mentality who wants to grow leaders is thinking about multiplication. How do I multiply what I already have working for me? So the main question is this: why is it that some leaders develop followers and some leaders develop leaders? So I want to give you three things that John covers. He covers a lot more, but I want to just give you three because I think these three are kind of like that tripod. They really set the foundation. The first difference is this: leaders who develop followers desire to be needed, while leaders who develop leaders desire to be succeeded. Man, that's powerful. Leaders who develop followers desire to be needed. I call this the centralized model. Centralized, meaning that the leader who desires followers wants to be at the center of the action. Everyone's got to go to them to solve a problem. All of the action flows inward, and it's like a wheel that spins around this one particular person. The only way things get approved, yeses or nos, problem solved, decision making goes through this one person. It's a centralized system. Leaders who develop followers desire to be needed. They need to be the one that everyone turns to. While leaders who develop leaders desire to be succeeded. They want someone else to come up and be raised up that can take things beyond what they've been able to do. And I call that the decentralized model, where the information gets disseminated out to other people who can make decisions, right? So they help other people understand what's at stake, what's important, how to prioritize, what the values are, so that they don't have to come back to them to make a decision that they can make or that they are capable of making. In other words, they want to give authority away. They want to decentralize the importance that they play so that other people can carry the weight of what's happening, or that other people can move the ball forward without them having to wait upon that person. So that's the first one. It's a desire difference. The desire to be needed or the desire to be succeeded. That's the first one. The second one is a focus difference. And so leaders who develop followers focus on their weaknesses. I'll unpack that a little bit. And leaders who develop leaders focus on their strengths. Now, John says something that's very interesting. He talks about leaders who develop followers fall into more of a counselor category. In other words, they're helping someone who has weaknesses. And I wrote this down in my notes. They're often giving solutions and solving problems for people. That's the first group. Leaders who develop followers are more of a counselor because they're focusing on their weaknesses and they're solving problems for people. In other words, if you're thirsty, they're bringing you the cup of water, okay? To use a simple analogy. While leaders who develop leaders focus on strengths, instead of being a counselor, they're more of an equipper. They want to equip you to solve the problem yourself. So instead of giving solutions, they're more tailored to ask questions. Questions like, what have you tried? What did you do the last time? What are you going to do now? Is there anything else you haven't thought of? So leaders who equip leaders are trying to get them to own the situation, where leaders who develop followers are really trying to solve the situation for the person, and therefore the person continually comes back to them. And I think that, to me, is a huge truth that we got to keep in front of us. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes a leader is so new to something that you do have to give counsel. There's nothing wrong with giving counsel. The question is, if the leader has responsibility and authority, they should be learning how to solve the problem over time. And they become less dependent on you. And that's really the difference, I think, in what John's saying here. A leader who develops followers needs to be needed. They have to be the one that solves everything all the time. And a leader who develops leaders is desiring to be succeeded and is desiring to focus on your strengths and to equip you to succeed. And let me just give you one more that I thought was really, really powerful. The third difference is a time difference. Leaders who develop followers love spending time with people, and that's great. I mean, we have to be able to build rapport, relationship, trust. All those things are incredibly important to any leader's impact with those that they serve with. But leaders who develop leaders aren't just spending time, they're investing time. It's the intentionality of how the time gets spent. And I think that's a huge truth for us to kind of always chew on, because it's good to kind of plan times where we're just hanging out and spending time. But really, if you're going to be developing a leader and developing leaders who succeed you and solve problems on their own, your time becomes more of an investment. What do I want to invest in the time that I spend with that person? So as we close, the question is, which one are you? And now you can know which one you want to grow. That's all I have for you today, from my heart to yours. Until next time.